Stand by for action. Anything can happen in the next half hour.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening and welcome to another exciting show with a lot of exciting guests. And you're thinking, what the bloody hell is he doing on his own? Well, I'm not on my own because we've got some exciting guests here. And first of all, we've got Deborah Hatswell, who's an expert on Bigfoot. And so if you've got your corn plasters ready, she'll be talking about your feet, won't you? No, I'm only joking. And of course, we've got ladies first. We've got Yorkshire Deb.
Not be me.
Plus, we've got a guest that you haven't seen before, but you've heard before. It's Colin. So, hey, hello, Colin. Hello, Yorkshire Deb. So, everybody, and so this is going to be a terrific show, I think, tonight. It's absolutely, I'm roasting here. It's absolutely boiling hot. Now, first of all, some call outs to do. So, hang on, I'll just, let's see if I'm twiddling around with these. Let's see if we can do it. Oh, here it is. Hey, I got it right this time. So, it makes me look a bit big headed, doesn't it? So, yeah. But first of all, we got a couple of people that are Tom and Dick, you see, and we can't have them Tom and Dick, can we? So, where are we? I've got to get me tinkly music. It's here somewhere. We've got our tinkly music. So first of all, it's a very nice lady called Zoe, and she's a bit Tom and Dick. So we need to have some nice healing music. Here we go. Lovely. And then we've got John. Now, John, I mentioned last week, has got something wrong with his ear roll. Well, I think it's that ear roll. And it must be driving him mad. It's awful. It's painful. It's vile. It's getting very slowly better, but it keeps coming back. So let's have some healing thoughts for John. If I can play it. Here we are. Whee! Nice healing thoughts. It does work. You know, it really does work.
Deep breath.
And what else have we got? We've got oh yes, some news about if you go on to, let's get me banners, my website, here it is. Pretty soon there's a link there to my World War II, which is not my World War II, it's my father, and his book is now available on Amazon, and it's available on Kindle as well, and that's thanks to Shannon. Shannon did all the typesetting and everything, so thanks, Shannon. It's very, very kind of you. And she'll be back soon. And John Hamer will be back soon. He's been to a conference. He's got a note from his parents, so we're okay there. So what we're going to talk about tonight is something I can't actually mention on air, but there's been, I believe, we'll have to work to Deb about this, an increase in sightings of strange creatures and things. Possibly that I think is due to this, which again I can't mention on the screen. And first of all, I'd like to actually read out, we have a viewer who comments on BitChute, because remember I have got a BitChute channel as well, so it's Area 46 on BitChute. And I'd just like to read his comment. It's John, and he said, and this was what he read, this was last week, he said, I personally get slightly irritated with the cry that there is not enough food in Britain for Bigfoot to live on, or there are not enough fish in Loch Ness to sustain a monster.
Right.
The best reply I ever heard of this kind of objection was from some expert chappie who had actually seen Bigfoot. He said, I don't know and I don't care what they live on.
Oh, I know who that is.
Fresh air, or all I know, but I have seen them. I know they are real. I think your idea is probably quite close to the truth, Chris, such as creatures quite possibly have paranormal dimensions and connections. So we have no idea what they really live off. Perhaps they can derive energy from the air that we and normal animals cannot. Who knows? It reminds me of the fact that according to the most BBC-like scientific facts, a bumblebee must be incapable of getting off the ground. Now that's John in Siam, and he's a very brave man. He's stood up against masses of people that are wearing the, and he said, "No, I'm not going to wear one." And he's a very brave man. So
can I weigh in on that, Chris, if you don't mind? Because I know exactly who he's talking about. I know who in the chat the expert was.
certainly, so far away, and
2015, Deb, Finding Bigfoot was going to come to England and speak to English witnesses, and Mr. Moneymaker from the show Finding Bigfoot declared on Twitter that it was absolutely pointless going to the UK because there was no such thing as Bigfoot anywhere else in the world other than the United States. So as you can imagine, all of us Brits went, well, sod it then, we're not going. And we didn't go, we pulled out. And he's continued to make those statements. He's only been he stepped into the UK for 4 days, something like that. Not even weeks on end. Stayed in a 5-star hotel, only went in pine woods that were plantation wise, and then said, no, there's no land. Declared there was not enough land and not enough food. So I'd have to agree or disagree with his statements. There's enough food in the UK to feed plenty of A-frame predators, and that, like the chap said, and that's only if we're dealing with a flesh and blood animal.
Yeah, that's quite right there, because quite honestly, I mean, where I live, it's noted for badgers, and in fact, the local council, their logo is a badger. Yeah, and there's so many of them now. All I've seen is dead badgers, roadkill, but I've never seen a live badger. No, they're supposed to be teeming with them, and they're big animals. They're bigger, about the size of a dog. Big dog. And, there's foxes, but how many? I mean, the only time you see dead animals is by the side of the road or in the road. Birds, loads of birds around. They die. Where's the carcasses and that? So there's lots of animals. There's muntjac. Well, there was before I started building all over the place. Muntjac deer. But before we go any further, shall we have a quick look in chat? We've really got a heck of a lot in chat tonight. We got I don't know where I can start actually. So please excuse me if I miss a lot of you in chat. We do read through afterwards. We've got someone new here. We've got nickname. So hello nickname. And we've got Dan MC, Oi Oi Savoy. That's all right.
Savoy.
Savoy. Oh yes, Savoy, not Savoy. What am I talking about? Thinking about cabbages. It says, when will we see you on the panel, Ruby? Oh, that means I don't know.
That's a question.
We've got Kim. Hello, Kim. I haven't forgotten your plant. She wants some sage, so I'm going to get her some sage.
Oh, nice.
And we got here. Excuse me if I'm missing quite a few because there's so many in chat. I'm sorry, I can't handle it all. You see that New York public service announcement? Oh, I won't say anything anymore. Yes, interesting. That Chris Lucas, fishingfortruth.com. Yeah, I hope you don't mind me. For obvious reasons, I won't read it out because I'm front of a band from PukeTube. So but that's very interesting. I'll have a shufty at that. So don't really worry. And we've got now it says here, hello, Sean Hamer, and it says here, Ancient Ruby says there are dogmen too, Chris.
Yeah, yes, they are, most definitely.
Going back to what we were saying earlier about this, and there's more sighting. There appears to be an increase in sightings. Would you agree with that, Deb?
Most definitely. As I explained earlier, I'm not that clued in on the CERN. It's not my area of expertise. But Deb, I had to ask Deb when it was made, and she thought around 2012, which is pretty serendipitous because that's when everything picked up for me. Around about 2011, 2012, the witnesses seemed to be coming forward where we'd only had like one a year, or maybe if we were really lucky, 1 or 2 a year. that was the first year where I thought, wow, they're really coming in. And it wasn't just Bigfoot reports, it was Dogman reports and increasing UFOs, paranormal activity. But at the time, I was only tracking Bigfoot reports. So that was my area. That's what I was looking at. Now, all these years on, I take reports of all kinds of activity, as you know. And I would say 100% that since they started to mess with that energy, that things have ramped up existentially to the point where now I've taken 11 reports since Sunday morning, and we're on Monday night. So 11 reports that have come in, not all that have happened recently, but that have maybe they've been reminded of something, or they've remembered something, or maybe they just want to tell you something that happened in 2012 or 2008, 1967. But Bigfoot reports are probably 60-70% on the increase. Dogman, I'd have to put it in the hundreds some way. There's just so many people coming forward, and it's not just the UK. It's Russia, Europe, Africa, Australia. I'm trying to think of all the cases I've worked on this month. Russia, Canada, BC, Vancouver, just endless, absolutely endless people making reports. So I would say 100% that yes. I just don't know enough about what they're doing there to be able to kind of clue what I would imagine our Deb does.
That's interesting, because the other area I'd like to go into also is, has people been harmed by these creatures at all? I mean, you mentioned the other week that there was people with claw marks and things like that. But are there people going missing because of these weird creatures being dragged into another dimension? Maybe, I don't know. Because you have quite an interesting thing that happened, Colin, with your nephew, I believe. I don't know if you'd like to explain that to everybody, sort of.
Well, just to elaborate, Chris, on CERN, they're allegedly trying to recreate the Big Bang, but the Big Bang is a theory.
Yeah.
And there's also some connection with this TV show called Stranger Things. I don't know if anybody's seen it. I've not seen it, but people have been telling me about it, saying that it's not trying to recreate the Big Bang, but open up portals of dimensions and let other things in. So maybe there's something. Maybe it's just coincidence, but I don't think so. It's just at the time when it's about to go into operation.
Yeah.
So I don't. Deb Singleton will probably know more than I do about it, but there does seem to be a lot of things going on. But yeah. My nephew resides just outside of Hebden Bridge, and he saw something that was 7 foot tall 7 foot at the shoulder, which moved like a cat. It was all black. And I said to him, well, the biggest cat, as far as I know, is the Siberian tiger, which is 7 foot long. I think he's about 25 stone in weight. And this thing dwarfs that. So that's just another recent case. There's a lot of cases around there. That's just outside of Hebden Bridge.
It's a very strange area around there, though.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
And your nephew is. So I didn't mean to butt in there, but your nephew is a scientist as well, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a geologist.
Yeah, so he's not. That is quite interesting. Now, it's rather interesting in chat at the moment, because we've got.
Incidentally, there's also, as I was saying to Deb last time she was on, about the dogman up that we call him the shapeshifter. That was a chap running along. The chap disappears and a big black dog appears, which was nowhere near as big as what my nephew saw, but was still quite large, still about 3.5 feet high.
Even can you imagine that coming at you in the dark? This big black muscular creature. I've got one today. It's not in Hebden Bridge by any means, but it's in a place down south, and that's all I'm going to say for now. On military defence land again, But this has come from a serving soldier who was out on exercises just this weekend. And he described that typical big, thick, black, muscular dog that stayed within the trees and was growling and howling and making noises, not like any creature that, you know, that you should be finding in a British woodland. So it ties in with both things, doesn't it? It ties in with the fact that these creatures are being seen a lot. They're being seen on military defence land, which makes me question, are they there with military knowledge? Do they know that they're there?
That's really interesting. I mean, in chat at the moment, we've got people coming in thick and fast here. Sorry, not thick, but very intelligent and fast. And now this is interesting. Obviously, I mustn't mention certain words because of YouTube. I won't be surprised if it's old tech such as something else. Yes, that was found and reverse engineered.
Could I mention something about that?
Certainly.
It comes from a friend. I don't know anything about this, but he was saying that this Tartarian information is where, is it the Nephilim were put into some kind of a prison? I'm new to all of that. I've studied other things, but nothing like this. But yeah,
that's quite interesting because that is interesting. We've got here Bigfoot, Woodwoos. Don't know what. Sorry, I'm a little bit ignorant. Woodwoos. I don't know.
Yeah, that's how they say it. Yeah.
That's is Robbie Green saying this. Existed in UK before. So yes, but it's an increase in sightings. That's the thing.
Yeah.
And we got here. Ancient Ruby has said, "Oh, well, she's backed me up here." Yes, Chris, 100%. Thanks, Ruby. And then we've got Ancient Ruby. Portals opened back in 90s, as far as I'm aware. And
messing with portals for millennia, aren't they? I mean, Crowler is a bugger for it. Yeah. Then you've got Jack Parsons, the NASA guy. He was messing with energy, trying to open portals. We've been doing that since the beginning of time.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Just because we don't understand it now with our 2022 brains doesn't mean early man didn't. They knew how to manipulate energy. You know?
Oh, yes. Look at the pyramids.
We're not that good at doing anymore, so we have to do it scientifically.
Well, I think I mentioned this last week, so I won't bore everybody, but you know the Long Burrows in Ireland, in 1960s, they did a documentary there, and the sound engineer went down with his oscilloscope and that, and there's strange sort of patterns on the wall that people puzzled by. And he noticed when he made a sound, the patterns are almost identical to what was on his oscilloscope. And he reckons that they had advanced knowledge of sound and how to use it to heal and all kinds of things.
Yeah. Because
when you look at the pyramids, I mean, I read a book called Supernature years ago, which said that it's saying that pyramids are healing centers.
Yeah.
And I've actually got a video that wasn't linked to Supernature that said that the pyramids, they haven't found bodies in there. And they say they're burial chambers, but no. And this chap reckons that they were healing centers. But we've got something interesting here. Robbie Green has come in, and he said, I have to keep coughing because I can't mention the word. Can I explain cryptoids? I follow that. Robert, and he said, and Robbie's come. No, a certain thing we're not allowed to mention smashes particles.
It does smash particles, but also it creates a lot of energy, and that energy, to me, is either good or bad.
Yeah, it's going to be one or the other, aren't I?
Yes.
And I think that changes the atmospherics.
Sorry, Deb. Just to get back to what Deb was saying earlier, Chris. What are hauntings and poltergeists? Is that not something coming through?
Yeah.
Yes.
We get it. I think when we don't understand something as a human being, we have to come up with this scientific reason for it. And that's the complete opposite of what you need to be doing. We need to be going back to the day when you stood on the ground with bare feet. Native Americans kept their hair long because your hair's another sense. We've just forgotten all of this over time. They could tell you who was coming, what they were riding, and how many of them there were by placing their head on the ground. But we, as human beings, we don't connect like that anymore. Not all of us do. And even if we can, we're not allowed to. It's ridiculed. We're not supposed to be out there in bare feet in the field. But that's what us human beings were made for. We were supposed to ebb and flow with nature, not fight it every bloody step of the way, you know? Yeah. And we forget our knowledge when it comes to energy. We all did that game in school where you do this and you can feel.
Yeah, you can.
We do it as toddlers. Toddlers do it. You see them do it. And then we talk them out of it by the time they're 5, 6 or 7. It's complete nonsense. And then that's it. And that's where it starts. That's where the brainwashing starts.
Spot on. Absolutely. You took the words out. That is absolutely, I 100% agree with you there.
A lot of it is because modern technology takes over. So why bother having to do all that when we can just do something else instead? Because we've advanced.
Well, we do Faraday cages, don't we, Deb? So our Faraday cage is built to keep energy out and energy in. Yeah. So we all live in these little concrete boxes that have girders and metal in, and we put society in individual Faraday cages. Yeah. And then when they tune in, we tell them they're mental and that they need to take drugs to stop them feeling like this. Yeah. You know, I'm not saying going out in nature cures everything. What I'm trying to say is, as a society, we are completely engulfed and surrounded by the wrong kind of energy 24/7.
Yeah, Spot, you're really correct there. I mean, what you're saying about long hair, I might have mentioned it before, so please excuse me if I have. During the Vietnam War, now some people are saying that this story is fictitious. Some people say it never happened. Some people said that 100% did happen. So I'm just relaying the story, make of it what you will. And apparently they used American Indians as trackers in the Vietnam War to track down the North Vietnamese. And of course they had the Marines' haircut before they went, and they could track sod all when they got to Vietnam. And they discovered that if they left their hair long, they could track.
Yeah.
And the scientists that looked into it all wore their hair long. Now, have you noticed that since the 1980s, it's been cut your hair short?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, that's the thing. And what you were saying about energy and things like that. Now, I'll give a little plug to Miles. That's a chap at Abbey Health Food shop, because incidentally, I'm going to go along. Going to have a nosh tomorrow. I'm going to go along there tomorrow and see Miles. So there's going to be 4 of us having our dinner in there. So if you walk into the shop lunchtime, you'd smell food. But no, I'm going to say, and he's helped me a lot. Now, you know that I had high blood pressure in April this year, and I was given the toxic tablets and all of this, that, and the other. And Miles managed to help me, and I'm now off the tablets. And my blood pressure shot up on Saturday, and I was feeling really ill. And I phoned him up. He was in the shop, and he said, sounds a bit like, sounds like it could be diet related. So he said, right, keep it. No, I noticed that I've been eating loads and loads of potatoes. I live on potatoes. I stopped eating potatoes, and look, I feel fantastic.
Yeah.
I think potatoes were a problem, because I ate a load of chips, jacket potato. So I think I must have something. I've eaten too many bloody potatoes. That's the thing. And that sounds silly, but isn't it strange? I've left off eating potatoes, I'm going to rice and pasta, and I feel 100 times better. So that is something that we you know, what we found is that, and he works with, I can't speak for him, but he works with Chi Energy. He's one of our 25 people that's trained in, he's an actual doctor in Chinese medicine. Very few English people that are trained in China. He's not Chinese, and his mentor is Chinese. His mentor is one of the most highly regarded tutors, and he treats Chinese people in this country. He's from Hong Kong, this chap. So when you think that Chinese medicine's been around for 7,000 years approximately, and how long's modern been around for? About 150, 200. So there we go. Anyway, sorry, I don't want to get banned, so I better not say any more on that one. But but that about the long hair, I don't know if anybody else has heard about that. Shall I go back into chat for a little while? Shall we?
Yes.
Now, And I don't know if anybody else wants to read out the chat or go through chat, because we've got two moderators tonight, Colin and Yorkshire Deb. Finally got Colin on as a moderator. It was a bit of, we had a bit of a messing around. It was being a bit silly. There we got Ancient Ruby. I spoke to a man who was doing work in my home, and he was in Afghanistan and saw DM.
Dogman.
Was sworn to secrecy, but I brought it up of my experiences, and he began to tell me what he saw. There's a lot in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
There's a YouTube program devoted to what troops saw in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
I think called Bedtime Stories.
Yes.
They're true. Yes. You look at that one as well. It's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, what we got here? Can you see anything else? There's so much. We got. Ever so sorry if I've missed people out. I do. Please don't take it personally, but it's impossible. Everybody's out. Robbie Green says there are portals that open thousands of miles above Earth, but only solar energy come through. Only UFOs are using portals. That's if you believe UFOs exist, because John Hamer, he'll be back on the show soon. He believes the Earth is flat. And, he's a globe Earth skeptic. I think that's the best way of putting it.
Yes.
And it's quite interesting what he says. And I believe they may be coming through portals. So you've got a point there, Robbie. But I'm not sure we've got, shall we say, beings traveling in tin cans across space in much the same way as humans allegedly went in a tin can to the moon in 1969.
Yeah, you see.
We've got Richard on Solent. Oh, really? It must be very painful. And sorry, do apologise. You get ointment for that. Do apologise if that's your real name. Deborah H again. Fascinating to read about werewolves and dogman reports in Kent. Kent is really quite a wild place for sightings of strange, unusual, and worrying creatures. Wallabies and wild boar there.
Rhea, beaver, raccoon are all reported in Kent.
Yeah.
I think we forget. I think even I'm guilty of it. When we hear about a place, we think about the towns. So when we say Kent, we think about all the major towns that are in Kent. We don't think about the river valleys and all of the Greenland that's out there and everything like that. And in the 1940s, I always take a lot of notice if a report comes in during the war years, because if it's made it into the newspapers, even after all of the stuff that's going on with the war, then it's important somehow. And I've taken a report from a lady who is she was from Kent, and she was evacuated during the war to obviously further out into the countryside. And she said they used to have school, and part of what they did at school was they would go into the fields and they would pick and forage food and medicines, because there was a big turnaround during the war where people went back to the old ways and we didn't have access to things. And she said that one day the teacher had taken them out into the fields and they were cropping what I would call sticky bud. It's like that stuff that's always stuck to nettles. Yeah, and it's really high in it's like spinach. It's really, really high in minerals and like proteins and things like that. And that's what they were picking. And as they were doing it, she said there was a giant hairy man that walked out of the woods and just looked at them all. And the teacher just kind of shooed them all back on to the school land and like, no, come on, everybody in, let's forget about that. And she said she'd never forgotten about it. And she was in like her late 70s when she shared it. So yeah, never be put off because it's near a major town.
That's interesting because Pluckley is in Kent, and that's one of the most haunted places in Britain. And also Kent, people don't realise this, has a desert.
Yeah.
It's a very small desert, I hasten to add. It's not like the Gobi Desert, but it has a desert near a power station. It's on the coast, isn't it? Near Sandwich, I think it is, isn't it?
Right.
Deal or somewhere like that, yes. But now this is quite interesting. We've got, it's true what you say, Deb. It says every culture had a dog-like creature in their history. Look at the Egyptians. But also, Robbie Green has asked an interesting question. Hello, Robbie. Debbie, can Bigfoot... Now, I think I can slightly answer this one. I don't mean to... Can Bigfoot mate with humans? Well, apparently, in the Himalayas, where the Yeti is, there's tribespeople that say that the Yeti does mate with humans there. I don't know if you've heard anything about that, Deb.
It's not just in Tibet. We have our own cases here in the UK from a Wadwos, and that was written in law, in text from a court. And it was a young lady who was taken into the woods by the wild man of Yellowham, but back then obviously called it Yalu. And she states that she was impregnated. She gave birth to a baby about 8 or 9 months later. She carried it up into the woods and she gave it to the woodwose, and she never saw it again. And there is exactly the same story in America. And in America, her name was Seraphina Long. And Seraphina Long was a Native American who was taken by a male Bigfoot. She was impregnated with his child. She was kept for quite a long time, and she really, really wanted to go back home to her family. And she was sick, very, very sick. And he carried her home. He took her back to the tribe. She gave birth to a baby, and unfortunately that baby died. And there is also the story of Zana. This is a Russian.
Yes, remember that one.
She was captured and sold to the highest bidder.
Yeah.
And the highest bidder was the local, what we would call the laird in England, like the lord of the land. He allowed other men to ply her with bait and impregnate her, and she was pregnated about 8 times. Unfortunately, the first 4 times, she took the baby down to the river and washed it during the winter months, and they died. So the man that owned her, his wife then took the further 4 children. And those children were raised, and they are still in Russia to this day. And if anybody wants to see photographs of them, I'm going to put my email into the chat now. If you email me, I'll send them over to you, because I was really lucky to speak with Iger, and he studied the Zana case, and he sent me all of the photographs over and things like that. So these photos there of her great grandson and her, her great nieces and things like that. Yeah. She had a son called Kvit. And he was one of the surviving members. And it was said that he could carry 4 times the weight of any man. And for all Zana was kept as a slave, over years, they realized that if they let her roam, she would come back. And she absolutely hated human men, and we can't blame her for that. But she adored human children. And as she got older, she actually became almost like a nanny. And she would calm herself down when children were around. And she recognized her own children. She knew who they were. There was some DNA done on her, and it came back as sub-Saharan African. But we're talking at the time when we were probably needed a massive amount of epithelials just to get. Many people are sub-Saharan African. If you came from that area of the world in the beginning, you pass that way, you're going to have it in your blood. It's like saying Brits have got Neanderthal in them. She wasn't any known hominid, let's put it like that. And his son was said to have had a fight and lost an arm and went back to work the next day and just carried on as if nothing has happened.
Wow, that is quite something. And mind you, I think if a female Bigfoot want to have a wicked way with me, I don't know whether you could say this, Colin. I don't think I could, how can I put it politely, rise to the occasion. I don't think I'd be rather attracted to a female Bigfoot. I think I'd have to be very drunk, But anything looks attractive,
Colin, I'm going to say this, and Northern saying all cats are grey in the dark.
There we got you.
I was just thinking there, Chris and Debs, that not to put too much smut in, but perhaps Chris and I are the removed, conjoined twins of a werewolf and a Bigfoot.
You never know.
You never know.
I've been accused of it. I've been accused of being cryptid, part cryptid. I've been accused of being alien. I've been accused of people who've actually filmed me speaking and said, look at her eyes, you can see she's lizard-like. So people will see whatever they want to see. Yeah. What is it they say? There's
all right. The tongue bit,
Yeah, thousands of pictures of yourself. Yeah,
Get yourself round here and catch these bloody flies because they're driving me nuts.
I'm locked in bedroom with a fan on. It's awful.
No.
When I'm on my push bike, people think I work in a bar because they give me the Hawaiian two-finger salute, so a greeting sign that is, and they call me a bar steward. I just can't understand why they think I work in a bar.
It's 'cause it's
What's it, get off the road, you stupid bar steward. That type of thing, How do you make it out? Now we got Robbie Green. This is about flat Earth, I believe. Robbie. Well, John Hamer is wrong. Well, you're entitled to your opinion, and
I agree with John. I agree with Robert. Actually, I don't think this flat, but that's
well, I make. I always allow. To me, guests have an opinion. People do politely. Yeah. I'm very much 50-50, and the reason why is because I make sun dials, and sundials, the geometry works out perfectly. But John Hayes come back and said, "Well, hang on, I'll show you a model where it's a half dough, and the geometry works out perfectly." So the jury's out in my mind on that one.
I'm on the fence a bit.
I think it's like me, innit? I can't criticise anyone or judge anyone. I saw something completely impossible.
Yeah.
Completely impossible. It should not have happened. But I don't mind if people have an opinion on it. I don't mind if they think, unless they force it on me. But if they think, no, I think it was possible of this, or I think it was, I'm all right with that. I don't mind having a conversation about it because I don't know what he was. I have no idea.
If we all agreed with everything, we'd have nothing to talk about, would we?
I agree with you, but I think what I like is polite discussion. Like that was really polite, Well, John Homer is wrong. That's polite, But what got me there was, as I said last week, I like to answer the people's comments because if a person's taken time to put a comment in, it's politeness for me to answer them if I can, if I've got time to. And as one person said, Bigfoot doesn't exist because food, blah, 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 blah. That was in BitChute. I didn't answer it because to be so closed-minded, if they said, I don't believe Bigfoot exists, but you're entitled to your opinion, fine, I would have answered it. But does not exist. That's what I call the BBC bullshit, a bow tie, Professor Plonker routine. That sort of smug.
Just put your head in a bucket of sand. It's easier.
Yeah.
Put your head in a bucket of sand, and then nobody can give you anything that that'll take you off this path that you're at. Because if you're on this path and you never look left or right, then nothing happens, does it? And I'm a totally different person. Debs is, Colin is. We want to know the ins and outs of everything. I want to know what he was, why he was there, how he possibly could be. When your nephew saw that dog, he wouldn't be talked out of it. There's not a man in England now could say to him, well, no, you saw a cow, or no, you just saw a Great Dane, because he saw it. Yeah. And the hardest thing is getting out of here onto paper or onto video what you saw. Yeah. So hard, because as you're trying to explain it, each person comes up with their own mental attitude, mental picture of it, don't they? But that'll stay with him now forever, and that's the important thing.
Yeah,
forever question what he's saying.
Yeah, it's life changing, isn't it? It's absolutely life changing. Me and Deb were midstream Saturday, weren't we? One of our guests had a panic attack, and it was because the account that I was talking about was very close to his own, so it kind of took him straight back there. And I messaged him. I made sure he was okay midstream, and then I spoke to him about 2 days later, and he apologised actually for having. And I said, well, don't, because it happened to me today and for no reason whatsoever. I was in the woodland, I smelt garlic and lavender, and that was it. I was right back there, right back at Beulah that day, and I had a complete and utter panic attack. And I've not had one for 2 years, something like that. But that's all it took. It was just that smell. And I was right back there. And I just said to Mark, you're going to have to go and get the car, and you're going to have to come and get me. I couldn't, my legs were shaking, I couldn't catch it. I knew what was happening, and I knew it was a panic attack, and I knew it was irrational, but it didn't matter. I just had to breathe through it until it ended. Yeah. So it's completely life-changing when it happens, regardless of what it is, whether it's a Bigfoot, UFO, alien, whatever it is that is not accepted by society.
Yeah.
And you see it when you're going about your ordinary everyday business, and suddenly you're the cuckoo.
Yeah.
people that saw meteorites in the 18th century were looked on as cuckoo because I think it was the Royal Society, you can correct me if I'm wrong, said rocks are not in space, so they can't fall. No, not in the sky, so they can't fall from the sky. These people must be lunatics who see them from the sky. So, again, that was long before the BBC, but I bet it was some ponce with a bow tie. I've got this thing about bow ties. People that wear bow ties. I don't know what it is, they're always sort of, I'm up my own arse sort of thing, and they always talk as if they've got, excuse my language, a cucumber up their arse, don't they?
Yeah.
Well, we're also talking like this. But what you're saying actually is like the contents for a future program, because you said something earlier, Deb, about people radiating energy, positive and negative. And I was going to do a show on relationships. Now, it sounds a bit weird, and it's not a dating show or anything like that, but the way people can give a positive or a negative energy. And there's some people you come up to and you think, oh, and I feel it a lot because, I think most of us have got HSP, which is highly sensitive person. Not sure I should mention that because my show was banned by YouTube. Yeah. But we won't go into that. But you can see it on BitChute. But anyway, back to the chat. So we got here Ancient Ruby. His words, this is the soldier that came back from Afghanistan, I assume. Mm-hmm. If you had seen what I see, you would not cope. I replied, nothing worse than a werewolf with a long nose to find out it was a dog man. Yes, that's interesting. Yes, that's right. Now it says here, we got Richard on Solent. All right, Chris, not in pain. Well, I'm pleased to hear that. Keep taking the other tablets, though, if you're on Solent, because I'm not sure those others. Yes, the Medway Valley and Bluebell Hill area of North Downs. I used to know that well, particularly weird. Further east in the triangle formed by Canterbury, Ashford, and Dover.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is absolutely spot on. That's the line of sightings that runs from, I would say, where the Thames Valley meets the River Medway. So you like Isle of Dogs area. Yeah, Cooling, that kind of place. So we have a line of sighting reports that follows the valley. So some of them go along the Thames estuary, and a lot of them go down the Medway, and they carry on, and just obviously they follow the River Medway out. Is it because there is more food resources at that estuary site? So are we dealing with just a mammal that needs salt? All mammals have got to take in salt. So if it's a dietary need, is that why we're seeing them around the coastal towns?
Yeah.
Well, that UFO, whatever it was, those I won't say UFO, well, different it was, those lights I saw in the sky, they behave like an animal would behave. They're sort of going shooting across the sky and then stopping and then going and then stopping again. And when you look at how erratic flies and ants and all kinds, they think they're erratic, but they're not. They're doing it, there's a reason for it. I'm wondering whether there was some life form up in the stratosphere that we don't know about, something like that. But I knew someone in chat would come along and help me. That desert in Kent I was talking about, it was often said that Dungeness in Kent, that's right, thank you very much, Richard, much appreciated, was a desert, but this was later found to be incorrect due to too much annual rainfall. However, it's bleak and spooky with the Shacks a nuclear power station. That's correct, yes. There's also little signs on the beach, isn't there, that tells you not to swim in the sea. And the signs have got eyes all written in the bottom, and there's like a brown ink smudge across the pieces of paper, isn't there? Use your imagination.
Yeah. There can be snowstorms in the Sahara Desert, can't there?
Sorry?
Yeah.
There can be snowstorms in the Sahara. There was about 8-9 years ago.
Yes, that's right. Well, it was a snow. Sorry, Deb, carry on.
No, I was just going to say freak weather.
Yes.
Yeah.
What about the pyramids? There's snow there once, wasn't there?
Yeah,
allegedly. Well, the amazing thing, she does what she pleases. She answers to no man, does she? And if you go along with her, then your life's a hell of a lot easier. And if you in all honesty, and some nights when I'm up with Mark and we're investigating, we might be right at the top of Rivington, and I can see all the way to the Snowdonia Mountains, and I can watch the weather coming in off the coast, and I sit there and I think, what must it have been like to be the first people, early man? And you see all of that. No wonder we speak about religion and culture. You see the sky suddenly go dark and you can't see the sun anymore and it's lightning. Have we displeased him, her in some way? Should we pay penance? And then as the storm passes, we're like, oh, well, that worked. So the next time there's a thunderstorm, we'll do exactly that again. And that's where religion and culture starts. And I think we forget that we are just animals at base, us humans. It's ego, innit? But we are literally just another animal on this planet. The only animal on this planet that needs help to live on it, I must point out.
Well, why don't we offer Tony Blair as a sacrifice to Bigfoot? That would be good.
There's quite a few of them.
Because Bigfoot's thought about that, and he's not impressed in any way, shape, or form.
But it might frighten Bigfoot away to see Tony Blair, because you think about it, there's Bigfoot going about his business, and suddenly there's Tony Blair in front of him. It's not frightening. But now we got here Robbie Green here. It says, if you believe, I guess this is Bigfoot, mate, then they have to be at least 99.9% same genes. Even, I think he means baboons here.
Bonobos. No, bonobos.
Sorry, bonobos.
He's a primate.
I didn't know that. Bonobos, closest genetically to humans, cannot breed with us. I don't think I want to, actually. This means that they really are hairy humans. Forgot that word. Yes. Well, the thing is, I didn't know that bonobos.
You'll have to look at them. They are quite cute.
Really?
I think they are.
Absolutely sex mad, aren't they, bonobo apes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
There's a woman lived at the bottom of my cul-de-sac, and she had a goat they called Flymo, and this thing would mate with anything. I mean, the paperboy just about got away. I think the goat fancied his bike one occasion, and the postman he had a narrow escape, and it washing off the line, particularly like eating knickers as well off the line. This thing, it was just an eating and shagging machine. That's all this goat. I think the goat ended up in a West Indian stew eventually. Poor old fly.
I'm not being ignorant. I'm just answering a question. I'm answering B's question.
Richard on Solent. Hi, Joe. Did I comment earlier, but not too long? In the winter, you wish me luck with my proposed walk between Porlock and Lynmouth, lovely part of the world. I like the West Country. Through ancient coastal Exmoor woodland. Still chickened out, though. Yeah, I don't blame you. Now, it says here, this is Robbie Green again. You can't have it both ways. If they can breed with us, then they are flesh and blood, and they're not from a different dimension. Well,
Can they be both?
Maybe, but there's all different types, apparently. I'm not trying to steal your thunder, Deb, but apparently there's ones that are quite friendly and ones that are not very friendly. And because, as I said last week, there was a chap whose life was saved by a family of Bigfoot in North America.
Yeah, it's not as cut and dried as people think. You can't just make a sweeping statement and say all Bigfoot are positive or all Bigfoot encounters are negative. There's too many variables for that. Far too many variables. Like, Colin will tell you from a paranormal point of view, you cannot judge your next case, can you? Every single one of them is unique. No.
But you've seen some things, Colin, because you're a paranormal investigator. And have you got I should think, did you ever encounter something like Bigfoot or something like that in your paranormal investigations with ghosts and things?
Is that me, Chris?
Yeah. I was just saying, did you ever even come in against Bigfoot or something like that?
No. The only thing we had was sightings of big cats, and that was in West Yorkshire again.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Just big cats.
They're not just big cats. You've got to Sorry, I didn't mean it. That was a bit school marmy there, then, wasn't it? It's not what I meant at all.
Well,
Big
it was
cat
described as
is
being
an
like a
increase
panther.
since 2012. Sorry.
It was described as being like a panther, not like what my nephew saw, which was like a giant panther. But this was a smaller one.
That's fascinating, because I know that some of the stories that you told me were, well, that let's put it this way, that certainly put the wind up. You know, they're pretty frightening. But
Yeah, well,
am I right in saying that over 90% of the time you didn't really see anything? It's only the small percentage. I mean, it's like most of these sort of things. I mean, that program, what was it called now? Most Haunted. I mean, how they arranged it every week. I'm sorry, I'm very skeptical of that show.
Most of my encounters have been places where I've resided, but there has been a few in places where we've had vigils and things like that. Well, there's been some encounters in experiences in other places, especially Chingle Hall, which was very active at the time. And also in pubs. There's been a lot of activity in pubs.
I've been in pubs where there's been a lot of activity, yeah.
The only audio I've ever had of something that was like werewolf or dogman sounding was a growl, and that was outside my door, and there was no dogs there. There was no dogs around because we searched around and there was nothing, but there was a growl. But again, don't know what it was.
Yeah.
Right. We got a question for you, Colin, here from Robbie Green. Colin, what's your thoughts on the origins of cryptids?
No idea. Don't know. I don't know much really about it, but I do think there's different types of creatures, and they are around. Maybe some are coming through other dimensions. I don't know. Same with UFOs. I've seen a lot of different things in the sky, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. But where hauntings and poltergeists are concerned, that could be other dimensions. It's something coming through. You know, or we're not seeing it. We're not seeing it as it is, and then we do experience it. And that's without long hair. When I did have long hair when I was in my 20s, I was staying at my sister's house, and that had activity in it. Like sometimes the lampshade would shake. There's things like that, and there'd be footsteps. And one night, my hair was just lifting up. It was as if some kind of electricity was around, something like that. But I do think we still experience things. We can still sense it, because I've sensed a lot of things without having my hair, of course.
Yeah.
I don't think you've got to have the hair. I think it's like an Amazon tribe. Each tribe has its own particular way that they hunt, you know. And then obviously with Native Americans, they grew that long hair because they said that helps them to tune in. So that's them. I think it's different depending on. I mean, obviously, I'm not an anthropologist, so depending on what culture you're looking at, most warriors had long hair. Some of them would wear it like mine, where it was up, but they would grow that hair, and the longer that hair was, the more stature it gave them, kind of thing. Even going all the way back to the Bible stories about who was the chap that had his hair cut off. Was it Samson?
Samson Delilah, yeah.
So the Egyptians would grow the hair incredibly long, and then they would wrap it and they would have it up. I just think it's we look at it, I'm sorry to repeat myself, with a different brain. We look at it from 2022 now, don't we? Convenience and comfortable, so we can have any look we want. We can have our hair cut. I don't think people went to the hairdressers very much.
No.
300 years ago, you know. I was once I would honestly say that I've not seen a ghost, but I have communicated with people who no longer walk the earth, is the way I'm going to put it. Yeah. And one of them once asked me if I was ill, and it was back at the time I used to shave my hair. I don't have any hair at the back here, but at the time I used to shave the sides as well, and I had it up because it was hot. And she was quite, why's your hair short? Have you been ill? Is how she said it, and then wanted to know why I had pants on. And that absolutely tickled me, because I was thinking, I suppose I must look so alien.
Yeah.
To her, you know, to look at me and think. And I also felt, jealousy is the wrong word, but it was as if I'd been given so much privilege and she wasn't allowed it, because back then in the 17th century, women were not given that privilege, were they? So she kind of thought I was a witch, and she was a bit wary of me, but she's incredibly interested in me as well. But it was their thing. So it must just be that it's now that we have cut our hair short and have it done every 6 weeks and, you know, coloured and all that. I mean, I'm not saying we didn't do that back then. I'm just saying, I think it would have been more for comfort, Deb, wouldn't it, to cut your hair back then, kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But can anyone else, why did she think I were ill? Did they cut your hair back then or something when you were poorly?
It could have been something to do with like lice or something, maybe.
Yeah,
like,
maybe. Yeah.
To stop lice. I don't know.
But I actually used to have terrible eczema on my head.
Right.
And you know, but that chap, President Gorbachev, with the birthmark. Well, I used to sort of, and when I was stressed out, I get this red come up. And I say, well, I was Gorbachev walking in when I worked, and I had suffered from this for years, and until I saw something on YouTube called the no poo idea. And that is, although this is probably the worst advert you could ever wish to see, but it does work, I'll show you. I actually stopped using shampoo, which creates dandruff, and instead mixed honey with bicarbonate soda.
Mm-hmm.
And you can put chamomile, open an empty chamomile tea bag into it. I don't, but they recommend you do that into the mix. And I rub it into my hair, what's left of it. Hairs, I think I should say. See what's left of it. Again, the worst advert in the world. Leave it for about a minute or two. This is when I have a shower. Then I got one of these garden sprays, which I've got 3 parts rainwater, 1 part apple cider vinegar. You know, give that, and then leave that a minute. And then wash it off. And my hair, well, you notice I haven't got any patches on my head. But I mean, I had a fall of the ear last week, but since I've been using that, seriously, I'm a bald. I'm not actually bald. I've just got a very wide central parting. That's the thing. And
bald cap on over his head. He's got really long hair, really, but just for the show, he puts a bald cap on.
That's it.
It's about 4 hours.
I think it's isn't it?
Long hair when it's like it is today. It's so humid where I live. It's 98% humidity.
Yep.
And we need to have a storm. It's dark out there. It's like Chicken Little. The sky's about that big above my head.
Yeah, it's,
I agree with what you're saying, Dave, about long hair, and a lot of the warriors, the ancient and maybe some of the farmers would cut it off because of just constantly getting dirt and so on. But
possibly.
There was another reason why people had long hair, and that was a symbol of not being a slave.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That's gone on for centuries. That has.
Understandable, isn't it? I mean, we're still enslaved, aren't we? I mean, it's something me and Deb talk about a lot. Yeah. We see ourselves as free people, but I don't mean, when I say this, I don't mean society. I mean the elite. They kind of taken everything from you that you're good at. So if you're really, really good at something, they go, oh, well, you can't do that because you're a girl. Or you can't do that because you're a boy. So you start, the minute you can communicate, we can start putting people into these little boxes, don't we? And we don't celebrate the good stuff about them. So whereas I think I would imagine it was very different, where you would, I don't know, they say in clans and tribes that whatever you were good at, that's what you did. Yeah. And then you got your self-worth from that. And then we never had this 9 till 5 clock. That's only kind of been since, probably 400 years.
Industrial Revolution. No, it's from the Industrial Revolution. I think what you're saying is, what I've been saying for a long time, is that if we went back to before the Industrial Revolution, if you went to a village, everybody would have a skill. So there'd be the coffin maker, the grave digger, there would be the doctor, and if you scrap the doctor, he'd be run out of town. Yeah, it'd be good.
I'd be the woman in the woods that lived in a cabin on her own and made tinctures, because that's what I do now. Now they call me a head witch. Back then they would have crucified me for it.
Yes.
But all she was doing was tapping into nature and using natural medicines.
And women are more attuned to nature because of childbirth and things like that, and monthlies and things. So women are generally more attuned. And I think all that when they did the Witchfinder General, that type of thing, I think that lot of those women were healers, because although I'm going to get a lot of religious people sort of going when they're looking at this, but
there was nothing to do with religion.
the difference between black witchcraft and white witchcraft. White witchcraft is good, is for goodness and is healing and helps people, and they don't put curses on people or anything like that. But black witchcraft is what we happen to deal with now with the the arseholes in the elite. You know, that's the thing. Yeah. But by the way, coming soon, I better mention this. A radio show. I'm planning a radio show on Thursdays. It won't be for a couple of weeks, but it's still being planned. Where there's no censorship, so we can say what we want. Yippee! So, are we up for it, everybody? For it? So, up for it, Deb?
Yep.
Pauline and that? Yeah. You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm a bit busy at the minute, so I'm not gonna commit until I go and look at my diary. But yeah, pencil me in.
But we will be mentioning words like tit and bum, so you know. Oh, I said it on YouTube. I shouldn't have said that, you know.
Just before you read the comments out, could what Deb mentioned last time was very, very interesting about what's happening around the canals. I'll just say that for now, because the figure that Deb came out with is like so much massive to the last time I looked at this case. I think it was 78 or 88.
Yeah.
And what Deb mentioned, as I said, absolutely on board with it. And it's been well kept down, even though there's been a lot of documentaries and some TV radio spots and so on. But what they carefully do is they say it's mostly people that have been drunk, in, etc., etc.
Don't they? That's what they do. A man did it 2 days ago in the video I made about it, and he said that it was their fault for cottaging in town, and it makes me so mad because many of them, absolutely many of them, disappeared in the daytime. One went to an orthopedic appointment. Others were shopping. They're not all of the victims haven't died because they've come out of a club and they've been really, really drunk and they fell in the canal. That it's got nothing. It's nothing like that. They only count the bodies that are on the River Irwell as it runs through the Manchester Ship Canal through out of Salford, and then it stops. They don't count the rest of the 25 mile or any found on the other 5 rivers that run into the River Irwell. So you've got all these rivers and tributaries, and we're ignoring them. And they're saying to us, no, it's only been going on in the 2000s. It hasn't. I spoke to families in the 70s who were still fighting. One chap called Tony, his sister said he did like a drink, Deb, but that was normal back then. Everybody worked really bloody hard in the 70s. Especially working class people. And on a Friday and a Saturday, you'd go to the pub and you'd have a few drinks for your mates, probably play pool or throw some darts, get some chippy tea and go home. He wasn't out raucous in the club till 4 a.m. And she said, we know for a fact that he did not walk that way because it terrified him. He was absolutely terrified of walking that way, and he wouldn't tell us why. Right. He was, and she said, there's no way he'd have gone through there at night whatsoever. And I was working on the case today, simply because we were talking about it and I'd mentioned it to Chris. I said to Mark, they don't count the females either. So I said males, they only count the males. So we've got, 2018, we've got a lower leg that's been found in the Irwell.
Yeah.
It belongs to a woman. And the last time she was seen, she was shopping for Christmas presents for her grandchildren.
Yeah.
And the police said, we found the bottom half of the leg, so don't worry about it. No suspicious circumstances whatsoever. You don't have to worry about it. It's absolutely fine. Well, how do you know? You've not looked at the rest of the body. She could have been shot in the head. She could have been strangled. She's been chopped into pieces. Yep. 12 months later, they find the rest of her body parts 30 mile upriver. And it's still no suspicious circumstances, and the case is not being looked at. So I said to Mark, I know they find feet in Canada and Vancouver that wash up onto the beach.
Yeah.
There's probably only 1 or 2 cases in the UK. I found 11 cases where feet or lower legs have been found in woodlands and nature reserves along rivers that are classed as of no suspicious circumstances, not in in what's that thing they say? Not in the general public's interest. 3 feet, 3 separate feet were found over a month period in Bath alone, on the same street. And none of those feet could they extract DNA from them. Now, I don't know where to go with that.
No.
That is very,
I suppose if you could take away gangland activity, fatal accidents, then what's left? Yeah. It could be is definitely something else, then, isn't it?
It's got to be. When they're finding him just in a training shoe, it was 2009 was New Forest. The foot was within the sock. The sock was within the shoe. I've actually got a photograph of it. And they did manage through DNA. It took them 20 years, though, Colin, to work out that it was this lad and he'd gone missing. He was last seen in the area. That was close to the river. No real reason why he would have disappeared. But what I found strange was around about the same time, there was the whole abandoned camp issue where this campsite in the same forest was completely abandoned, and they actually put it in the newspapers. They were trying to find people who'd run from it, and when they did actually track them down, they said they wouldn't reveal what they'd heard during the night, but they said it was some kind of, I don't want to get it wrong, it was either a howl or a growl or something like that, but don't quote me on it. And that's why they'd left the forest as quickly as they could. But I kept finding them. So there's like just a little few cases I've spoken about there. Training shoes, again, feet in shoes, feet in socks, naked feet, Merseyside, Yorkshire, Grimsby. There's around 4 cases around Grimsby for some reason. Cleethorpes. Really strange. I mean, obviously I'm going to work on it. I'm going to make it into a podcast because it's interesting and I want to see where it goes, kind of thing. But yeah, just talking about what Colin was talking about with the pusher. The pusher's, that book's been sat there for 4 years. I wrote the book. It's just sat there because it never stops. As I end one case, another one comes forward. Yeah. Yeah, you know, it's just never ending, unfortunately.
There's a couple of them pusher incidents for me that really disturbed me, especially the one with the lad that was growling down the phone at his mum and dad, and they were trying to find out where he was, and he couldn't speak, and
hour and a half.
Clothes all piled up, and
can you imagine being that mum at home, right? So we're back in the day. You might, you go out to the club, you're a young working class lad, and he was middle class, he was proper well to do.
Yeah.
Phone goes, house phone, and it's your son screaming and howling down the phone.
Yeah.
Can't make sense, he's incoherent. So she phones 999 on the mobile.
Well, she's still on the phone, yeah. Yeah.
Explains what's going on and puts the 2 phone calls together. Now, every single phone call that comes into the UK police at all times are recorded.
Yes.
They were on the phone for an hour and a half with this lad while he's screaming and all kinds of noises were coming from him. They didn't dispatch anybody to go out and look for him.
Nope.
They just sat there on the phone and listened to it. Decided that he was probably drunk or that he'd been spiked in a club. Kind of left it like that. And unfortunately, they did pull him out of the canal a number of weeks later. When the inquiry was asked for by David's mum and dad, the second reason they asked for it was because the police said they'd done a thorough search of the bank between the club he was in and where his body was found, and that they'd searched it extensively. His uncle went in 6 weeks after and found the lad's phone.
Yes.
So how would it have been searched extensively if the phone was there? And then the police said, unfortunately, that 999 call did not tape.
I know.
The day after, Deborah, the Manchester Evening News put a notice out in the paper. The headline was, "There is no Manchester pusher." So what do you do when you're looking at over 200 men? They're not all going to be the pusher. There might be numerous pushers. Could be someone who lives on a barge, could just go from canal to canal and top off if he wants. Because it's not just Manchester. Look at Bath. Bath is a huge area of missing men along their canalways.
Yeah.
What do they call the one in Yorkshire, Deb? The
Calder.
Yeah, they've got a name for him. Is it the Grim Pusher or something like that? And they've got
something like that. Yeah.
Gripper. He said to grab him and throw him into the water, hold the foot down with their head.
Yeah.
But It's something. It's very similar to, was it a chap Pylades, isn't there? I think you know it, Colin, doesn't it? That chap in North America that looks at these strange cases.
Pylades, yeah, I know.
Yes. But I don't know if there's any particular areas in chat you would like to go into, anybody.
I did see a comment from Robbie about my sighting being really close to a ley line.
Mine was.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. I didn't know it until probably this year. Not really, you know. But yeah, yours was on it. Debbie's on a ley line. It was in an area of Crowley. What Crowley had messed about in for a while. I don't have the. I know some people really don't like Crowley, don't hate him. I would imagine there's people out there that don't like me, you know. So I never listened to the bad side of him. I mean, when you look at a lot of his stuff, really, you just want it to be the best humans we can be. Yeah. But when you're messing about with energy and opening portals, you've got to learn. It's like anything, isn't it? You don't get on a bike and just ride it. So you're going to make mistakes. You're going to leave portals open. Things are going to come through. Like John Dee, all the stuff that still goes on because of John Dee and his bloody scrying with Edward Kelly. Yeah, but yeah, Deb's was on a ley line, and mine's was on a ley line. And that, when I mentioned the triangle before, also an area where lots of ley lines meet on that moor between us and Toddy and Yorkshire. Yeah. I think a lot of UFO reports, though, don't they? They follow ley lines.
Yeah, a lot of them do. Yeah.
But it's funny because many, going back a long time now, many years ago, I had a girlfriend whose father was in Palestine just after the World War II, and he missed the war. And he told me a story which was quite interesting. He said that him and his mates had to go out into the desert. I'm not sure if it was Bedouins, I'm not sure, so please excuse me if I'm wrong, but shall we say it was a tribe in the desert that we went to, who were very, very friendly because it's part of their hospitality to, you know, be friendly to guests. They're very nice people. And they were there, and this tribe did this magic. And he said they were dancing around, and one of the dancers, he said nobody was drunk. There was no alcohol at all. They were quite sober. I think he was in some technical branch of the army, and they were quite sort of technical people. And he said they all saw a person transform into an animal. I think it was a wolf or something like that, and then transform back again. And they went, oh. And I've never forgotten that story, and that was told to me years ago. And he said, you know, they weren't drunk, they were all sober, totally sober. And they'd never seen anything like it. He said, this tribe were the nicest people you could ever wish to meet. He said, and I think they stayed there the night because you know, in the desert it gets very, very cold. He said, and they put them up, and he said they get, you know, they had this ceremony for them to see, and he said they knew about magic. They certainly did. That's what his words.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
But I'd love to know. I mean, I don't know if they're still alive now, but I'd love to know what that tribe was or who they were. I said Bedouins, but
not the dervish. Is it not the screaming dervish, as they call it?
I don't know. But it was somewhere around Palestine area, so it was in North Africa, but where I don't fully know. It might have been Libya, I don't know. There's a lot of don't knows about this, but you never know, somebody else might have been in the same lot and know something about it in chat. Who knows? Their father might have been.
Energy though, aren't you, when you dance? That's why we did it as early man. And it's a good energy, it's an happy energy, you know.
Yes.
And we all talk about our spirit animals. That came from somewhere.
Yeah.
One of the oldest cave paintings known to man is a figure that is half what we class as a wolf and half a man. So the bottom half's a man and the top half's a canine dog. Yeah. So that's the first ever written that was a man, and it was also an animal at the same time.
Yeah.
I think that shamans and tribes for millennia have been doing that. They can look behind that veil. They don't have the illnesses that we have. You don't hear. I don't mean anything to anybody that suffers with depression, because I suffer with it myself. Yeah. But you don't hear that from people who are native to their land. So you don't hear of these cases where we're completely depressed because they're connected to the land. They're eating the right food. As humans, we're supposed to eat a bit of mud and a bit of dirt. It's got all the minerals in that we need. We don't do that anymore. When you eat the offal of an animal, and people don't realise this, that includes the serotonin that you need to stop you feeling depressed. And we don't have offal in our diet anymore. We just have the good meat, the non-fatty meat, and that's not great for humans. That's like keeping your horse on a diet of just grass for its entire life. It's not, we don't feed them the right way. We're like pets, really, but badly kept pets.
Yeah.
We also, I like to be clean, but we're too hygienic in many ways. Because I think it was Dr. Joel Wallach. He did a lecture where he said, "What dead doctors don't lie," and apparently the average age of a doctor is about something like 58 or something. They don't live very long, and he said that what changed everything is when we went to electric cookers, because when we had the old fires, we used to empty the ash out onto the garden, and the plants and vegetables will grow on that ash and give you all the minerals when you eat the veg. And also you'd eat a little bit of ash in with your food.
I was going to say you'd eat that ash with your food.
Yes. Because charcoal is an anti. Did you know that if a child eats the contents of a medicine cabinet, the first thing the ambulance crew do is pump them full of charcoal. Charcoal takes the poisons out of your system.
Neutralizes it.
If you follow birds will take you to really nice looking fruit. It's pretty poisonous for you. But if you follow a path, it'll be ugly fruit, but you can eat it. That's one of the foraging rules. But if you test something and it feels really bad, eat the fire. Get the charcoal out of the fire and eat it. It'll also purify your water for you. We don't have the immune systems that we used to have. We just don't have them. We don't eat enough seeds. We don't. You guys you're from the south, Chris. So if I ask you what's a filbert and what you pick it,
no. My granddad used to have filbert nails, fingernails.
No, filberts are what I would call a cob nut, and you pick them round about when your hazelnuts are ready. Yeah. Massive amounts of fat and protein, massive amounts of minerals. We would have known every single one of those nuts on every single tree, what the leaf could do, what the bark could do, what the roots could do, what was growing around it, what it killed off. We don't think about fire, shelter, warmth, and food. When you've only got to think about that, that's your main priority.
That's right. And happiness as well, because when you think about it, look how unhappy people are. And when you look at the psychopaths that rule us, what do they try and do? Divide us, stop us from talking, stop our comedy. Because this is one thing you notice with these tribes. Most of them are very, very happy.
And they're all left to their own devices.
Because they're left alone. And this is why I have got, and I'm getting a bit political here, but I've got no time for governments, because I think we can do well without governments. Because
look at the moment, what's happening to the Amazon tribes. They are being poached, basically. They're being killed by pirates for the logging.
Yeah, correct.
The government are looking in the opposite direction. It's all about the money. And those tribes know every medicine in that jungle. Yes. And because the elite don't want you to have those medicines because you could cure yourself for free, let's get them chopped down. Let's make them, they're not there anymore. You can't use them anymore. Now you have to go to Big Pharma.
Yeah.
People don't see that. They just see, they're chopping the trees down. It's not the bloody trees. They're taking everything from you. And they're taking culture from those tribes.
Oh, yes. And I'll tell you something else. You see, we get this impression that tribes were like headhunters, cannibals. No, because I person studied all that. And there's many tribes. There's one particular tribe that was only discovered in the 1980s.
Yeah.
The men and women share tasks. They grow up together. And the women go hunting with the men. And women pick the berries and the men shoot the monkeys and things like that. And they carry the game back. And they share the task equally between them. And they're a peaceful tribe. They're laughing all the time. And they're a happy tribe.
Yeah.
And
Alaska and Canada. They're some of the happiest people that you meet. But then we decided that they weren't allowed their culture anymore. because their culture didn't fit with us. So we took them away and we put them in schools. And now we finally realised after 60 years that was not the right thing to do. Left you their own devices. They're perfectly happy. They know everything they can eat. They know everything they can use for fuel. It was Randa, Deb from BC, who taught me every single animal has enough brain to tan its hide and enough sinew to sew it up.
Yeah.
Wow.
And why have I not known that my entire life? Why did I have to be in my 50s before I found that out, Yeah. Because Randy is native to that area. He's connected 100% to it,
Well, we'll look at rabbits. Now, rabbits kept this country alive during World War II.
Yeah.
People ate rabbits. And what did they have? Myxomatosis. So you can't eat the rabbits. But they ate almost everything. I mean, rooks they ate.
Yeah, pigeon, squirrel. That's when the grey squirrel was introduced. The grey squirrel was introduced for meat during the war, Raccoons. You look at Germany, Berlin in Germany has a massive raccoon problem because they were brought in between the wars, A for the meat and B for the fur. And because once the war ended, they weren't needed, they have a real problem with them in Berlin. Yeah, it's similar to the UK. It's like the boar problem, isn't it? And it's just pandemic.
Do you remember that? The koipu, that was from South America. Wiping out the indigenous animals around, or creatures around East Anglia. And they shot it to extinction in this part of the world.
Do you know, there's a tale I tell, Chris, and nobody ever believes me when I say it, but I live in the northwest of England, probably not what people would class as, your woodiest area. I live up in the hills. A long time ago, probably 2008, I'm out walking the dog with the dog like you do, and there's a, lady gets out of her Range Rover with a chocolate lab and a Fendi boots, and off she goes on a walk. And I suddenly hear a gasp, and I look, and there's a little deer coming across, only a baby, it's not. And she went, "Oh, how did that reindeer get here all the way from Norway?" And she was 100% serious, Chris. She was, "Oh, how did that get here from Norway?"
That's mad.
That's what you're up against.
Yeah.
Would you like? Shall we go back into chat? Shall we have a quick look in chat?
Chris, just a quick mention to what Deb mentioned there. Deb H. Beef bone broth is very important for the diet.
He is bone broth. Buy meat, buy it with a bone.
Vegetarians and vegans and so on, but you can't replace it.
You can't. The salt is like I said before, we need the salt. That's why it's cherished in other countries, the head of a fish, the head of an animal, because it's got the eye, and the eye is the part of the body that holds the sodium.
Yeah.
So if you live probably 1,000 miles from the sea, fish's eyes or animal eyes might be the only way that you're getting salt. But to us, it's like, it's the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
If they eat crabs, they leave the crab shell on. If they don't leave the crab shell on, they pound it and pound it and pound it until it's a paste.
Yeah.
Because it's bloody calcium. They do the same thing with eggs.
Yeah.
It's only us that chuck stuff away all the time. You see it all the time. You see people go out and buy spring onions. They chop the bit off they want and they sling it.
Yeah.
That's how we've become used to it. You wouldn't have done that back in the day. You'd have waited until they were seeded and then you deseeded your garden with them, We just don't think like we used to think. Yeah. We just train not to. Don't be self-efficient. Do not be self-efficient, because then you don't need gas, you don't need electric, you don't need to pay for water, housing, rates, all of that, mortgage, bricks and mortar.
You're speaking my language there. Anyway, back into chat. We've got here. This is Richard on Silent. Said a monkey was photographed roughly in the middle of a remote area between Canterbury in the north, this is in Kent, of course, Ashford in the southwest, and Dover to the southeast. No escapees reported from Port Lymph or Howlets. Interesting. Then we got here Ancient Ruby. I refuse to watch all spirit videos, for they just do not know how to contact properly. Yeah. So many run if they hear a light bulb flicker.
Yeah.
What's the entertainment is? What's the point of other entertainment? It's mocking. Yes, I agree. Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
Chris, you did know somebody that could do things properly, didn't you? That was Michael Roll.
Oh, Michael Roll. Yes, I did an interview with Michael Roll. Thanks for reminding me, Colin. If you go on to my website, fockhamhallradio.com, and look into the archive, many years ago, I did, soon after my father died. It's not one of my best interviews because I was still mourning the loss of my father. But if you go on to, here's my website, Fockham Hall Radio, and look into the radio archive, and you'll see an interview I did with Michael Roll, and it was fascinating because he believes in the scientific evidence for life after death.
Right.
And I didn't know that before the 1990s, it was illegal to speak about that subject in this country. In fact, throughout the world, it was.
Yep.
And he actually got it to change the law where you can speak about life after death, the scientific evidence, because he said radio signals, you can't see them, can you?
No.
Look at these signals. We can't see them, but they're there. So it's quite.
What did he call it, Chris? What did he? Was it visual clairvoyancy? I can't remember the actual.
Oh, yeah. He was talking about that woman
Where they manifest, where they can manifest. So
That's
what they were saying.
a trance clairvoyant.
Mediumship.
Oh yeah, mediumship. Yeah.
And the last woman.
Yeah, and that's how you can
All
tell
that.
the difference between a real psychic medium and a fake one.
Yes.
And the fake ones will say something like, "I talked to my dead ancestors, but they're not dead; they're alive."
Oh, yeah, exactly. They're back at source.
Yes, they're very much alive. They're not dead.
Yeah.
There's an American lady, and she was, I would say, she was call reading people. So she was asking some questions and so on. Now, a real one would never ask you anything. They have no need to ask. They would just do it. And I've met a couple like that, but 90% would always be cold reading, always asking questions, where the very small amount would never ask anything.
Coming from the kind of...
And they would never refer to somebody as being dead, like this woman on YouTube. She said, "Oh, I talk to my dead relatives." Well, how can she be talking and communicating with something that's dead? It's impossible, isn't it?
I believe that I was taught as a girl growing up that if you go to a psychic and they say to you anything along the lines, and I'll give you a couple of them, they'll say, "Right, let me hold your hand. Give me 3 things that you want." So you'll say health, wealth, and happiness. So now they know that you're worried about your health. You're not at your happiest, or they'll say, "What do you want from today?" And you'll say, "Is he going to marry me, or is he cheating on me?" So they instantly know that you want to know about love. So the charlatan will feed that because I'm getting an M. I'm getting an M, and the girl, you can see the girl's not swigging in, and you go, "Oh, but it could be an N," and you see a light up, and you go, "Yeah, I think it's an N." That's called reading people, and they do that. I've had people stop me in a supermarket that I do not know. I had Erica in the pram. She's about 8 weeks old. Tesco's of all places. Little old lady with ginger hair comes up to me and says, "She's a special child here," hands me a teddy and walks off.
Yeah.
I've had experience. I've even gone, Deb, where you used to go on a psychic night. So and everybody would be in pubs sat around. I would literally not make eye contact.
Yep.
Because I've closed myself off to go in, and I won't make eye contact with him. And I walk around, and this woman said to me, "You'll sit down eventually with me, won't you?" And she was the one who said to me, "What's this?" And I went, I laughed. I said, "I'm at Secretarial College." She went, "No, I don't mean that." She was like, "Do you write?" And I went, yeah, it's something I do. It's how I control my madness. And she said, "One day you'll write stuff and everybody around the world will read it."
Yeah.
And it was the same thing that I got told at 7. The old gypsy woman when I was 7 said to me, "One day everyone's going to know her name." And I've never forgotten it. I've never, ever, ever forgotten it. And I've never been to a genuine medium that's ever given me bad news.
No, same. Yeah.
Because you don't. If you see something bad, when you connect with somebody's energy and you know that something bad's coming, that you don't put that on them. You just don't do that. You just don't offer your hand in friendship because you know they're about to go through a really hard time.
But
I remember I'd split up from a long-term relationship it was May 1990, and my mate said to me, "Oh, come on, there's a pub in Pontefract, and they're having like a psychic fair. We'll go. Anyway, I wandered round and I was drawn to this woman, but I was like, no, I'm not going. I'm going to have a look round. Anyway, I looked round and I kept getting drawn back to this woman, and I sat down and she said, you've finished a relationship. I said, yeah. So she said, you're not bothered about seeing anybody else? And I went, no, I'm not interested at all. She said, well, somebody's coming. And I said, well, I'm not interested. She said, and at the time I worked in a nursing home, and she said, he'll wear a uniform and he'll drive for a living. And I'm automatically thinking, because we had a lot of ambulance people, so I'm automatically thinking ambulance. Anyway, got to end of July, and I met who's my husband now. And it turned out that he was in the TA, wore a uniform, and TV driver to boot. And I'm like, right, okay. But she knew nothing about me. I just sat down in front of her and looked at her.
They just look really genuine ones. My nana knew when every one of us was pregnant. You were pregnant, and you'd be like, oh, no.
I could when people were pregnant.
She would say, if something bad was going to happen, she'd say, oh, no, I saw my dad last night. So that was normally a portent of something bad happening. Chris mentioned it earlier, that feeling that you get in your chest where you're really, really anxious. And fortunately, with them, it was about potatoes. That'll happen to my mum. And my mum will say, oh, my guts are churning, something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. And she'll say, can you feel it? And I'm like, yeah, don't talk about it. Because you're waiting for it coming.
Well, that's it, yeah.
Yeah, but we
on your own like psychic energy, isn't it? You don't tune into that enough.
No, I think that's what it is. We do it now. We say like, well, but we give an excuse for it, don't we? So we'll be like, oh yeah, and this happened, but it possibly could have been, or it could have been, possibly that. I think if you just kind of accept that it's happening, just roll with it. It gets a bit easier. I was in my 50s. I was in my 50s, and I was still unsure whether you actually did go somewhere when you died. I mean, I don't mean like heaven or anything like that. I was like, I didn't really understand about the source and that you could be, basically you had a choice, don't you? Because your energy, that's what I believe. I believe that you cross over and it's up to you whether you continue to exchange any with people and you can come back as whatever you want, or you can just say there. I think that's how I see it. But I had to wait until my dad was really, really poorly. And maybe that was the time of life when I was supposed to learn it, if you get what I mean. If I'd have maybe known it back when I was younger, I wouldn't have taken the lesson, I think is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I mean, what you're really talking about is what we was talking about the other week, which is highly sensitive people who we were highly regarded in tribes because we had this extra sense, and it's genetic. We can tune in on people. I mean, I know if someone's upset. I know if they're, and as you get older, you seem to tune into it more. You can tell the bullshitters and all kinds of things like that. And I think when we're young, we're always gullible. But then you sort of hone in your skill. And also, I can tell if someone's ill or not instantly. There's something, I get these gut feelings about people and places as well. Going to buildings and go, and going back into chat, we got here Robbie Green. Chris, I don't get you, nor do I don't get me either. You knock UFOs, yet believe that Bigfoot comes from other dimensions. What gives? Well, yeah, I believe that there's probably things that come from other dimensions, but I don't think there's little green men on planets out. Well, there may be if the universe is as they tell us.
I know what you mean. You're not calling for what we've been presented.
That's right, because UFOs before 1945, people just said, "Oh, wonder what that is." They didn't relate them from beings from other planets. And it was only in 1945, thanks to the CIA, that it was, it's little green men. Well, I keep open-minded. I might be totally wrong, because I remain open-minded all the time. But there's a famous, you can see it on YouTube, it's called In Search of the Great British Eccentric. And it was Dave Allen, the comedian, did this fantastic documentary in the early 70s. And it was brilliant. He was a comedian, yet he didn't crack a gag or anything. He was deadly serious on this. And he spoke to a scientist who said, they didn't go to the moon. We can't land on the moon because the moon is gas. It doesn't exist as a planet. Or not planet. Sorry, it's not a planet. It's a moon. He said it's just gas. And everybody was going, you know, and Dave Allen was going, yes, really, you know. And
Yes, to check, didn't Patrick Moore do the same one? Didn't he do the same chap? Because when you sent that to me,
that's right.
And somebody recently said that it's a map of the world. It's a real, genuine map of the world reflecting back, and also that it's self-illuminating.
Yeah,
possibly.
Right. It says now we got here. Robbie Green says, Colin, if you can have the answer to one phenomena, what would it be?
None. I haven't got an answer to any.
No, if you could have
I can only give a theory. I can only theory. It's like somebody's wrote there and said, you know, that they're all demons and that it's the jinn. Well, don't WISH for anything because that's part of it.
Right. Everyone in this chat is a renegade, apparently.
I'll wear that t-shirt with pride, me. I don't mind being a renegade.
Yeah.
And that's a trap, of course, isn't it? To WISH for anything. That is a trap. But
yeah.
I think, I've got to be honest, I think the government cartoonise things, and let me explain that a little bit. So, like, way back in the Mickey Mouse days, black and white, everything was a ghost. They had all these ghosts, and they were dead silly, and they were stupid, and we ridiculed them. So that was because for a long time, people have been coming forward making paranormal reports. So the easiest way to shut that up is to ridicule it. So anybody who's maybe connecting with another person's energy is then looked at as a bit cuckoo and a bit silly. And then you see it happen again after the 40s. People start making UFO reports that are hitting the news. So we cartoonise it. We make them into these funny little green aliens that, you know, are absolutely ridiculous and can be laughed at. And they started doing it with Bigfoot. So if you look at the last 3 years, most of the children's films that have been made are about Bigfoot, which is why. Because it makes it funny, it ridicules it for the same reasons they did it to the other genres. Because then people can go, oh yeah, like, it's just silly, look, it's just a thing that we laugh about. You shouldn't be taken seriously for something like that. Yeah, it's just another way of being programmed.
Yeah.
You're spot on there. You're totally spot on. And now this is an interesting one from Joe Weeks. Hello, Joe. What place that Colin has investigated has had the most activity? That's one I'm interested in as well. So, do you want to fire away, Colin, or?
Absolutely, yeah. Chingle Hall, without a doubt, had the most activity.
I'd love to go there.
Yeah, in 5 or 6 visits there was quite a lot. I think there was only one occasion where nothing happened.
Yeah,
but there was a lot of things that did happen.
Yeah,
a lot of movements, smells, scratchings. A friend got attacked there, What's
the history of Chingle Hall, Colin?
Pardon?
What's the history of Chingle Hall?
It was originally called, strangely enough, Deb, D. Singleton Hall,
right?
Ooh.
Which then got shortened down to Chingle. Many of the beams in there were allegedly taken from Viking longships.
Right.
They are old beams. It was a place where the priests were, where the monks and priests were. And that's why there's so many priest holes. So when the Protestant troops would arrive there, those monks or priests at the time would have to hide possibly for days in those holes, and they would deliberately light fires, so to smoke them out. So that's how they got a lot. There was a chap there called John Wall. I think I can't remember where his skull ended up, but I can't remember if he was decapitated or not.
Right.
But John Wall was said to haunt the place. There was another spirit allegedly was called Eleanor. So they've got Eleanor's room, and that's at the front over the main door where the lamp is.
Yeah.
There was that one. Two friends of mine were there one night. I wasn't there. And they heard footsteps up the stairs. and then there was a shadow which went along the hall right towards where they are and into the room, and they were in what is called Eleanor's room, and he
Right.
was burnt in there, and that was Darren who was attacked the night that I was there. But it is very old, and I think it was built originally on another monastery, the site of another monastery.
Right, yeah. So it's like an ancient site.
Yeah, Guzna, and it's not far from an English uncivil war battlefield.
Right.
But there's also been sightings of spiritual animals such as reindeer.
Right. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, that was seen one night by 2 or 3 chaps that I know.
Yeah.
They've seen it dive across them and it disappeared. They said it didn't even get to the other side of the hedgerow. So it came through one hedgerow, went across the road and disappeared. That was that one, and it was quite large.
Right.
Yeah, but it is a very, very old site, and there's another family in there now, and apparently they're reporting nothing at all. But I don't know.
Unless they're closed off to it, I suppose that's possible.
Yeah, they've purchased the property, and so no one can visit it anymore.
Right, that's a shame.
If we've had a monastery on it or a church of some kind, then it meant something to us early on, because a lot of you find that the early places of worship in the UK, then we went and the Romans nicked them. Yeah, what they did. Don't get me on about the Romans, but you get what I mean, don't you, Deb? So that area would have been important way back in the day to us. So that tells me that you've probably back then we've gifted there, and usually when you're gifted, you can make an area positive. But then over time, as that stops happening, negative energy can come in, and that will build. So you'll get people that go to the site, and they might be messed with. So like attachments or a feeling of dizziness or sickness when they're there, being messed with almost in a mischievous way. So things being thrown at you and stuff like that. You tend to find that on sites that are very, very close to priories, monks. Anything with the word glebe in is usually owned by the church. So if you follow it back, you'll probably find that the church owned that land at some point, if not that they still do. So what I would suggest, anybody who's down there who's an energy worker like me, get down there, do a bit of a clean up, and then gift again.
Yeah.
Take it back to what it used to be. Go down there. It doesn't have to be anything spectacular. You can put some flowers there like you did as a kid in the woods.
Or stone.
Yeah, anything like that. So it's not the gift, it's the act of gifting.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I agree with you there.
And you say, I'm sorry for what my fellow man have done, but I see you. I appreciate you as a being, and I'm leaving this here as my friendship for you. And then you say, you can't follow me home, you can't come with me, but I respect you. And then you leave it on a good note and you leave. That's some people will go out and think, I actually might try that. You can do it in an area if you're frightened. If there's a typical area that you're scared of going into, if you can do it, took me a long time to learn it. But if you have a conversation in your head before you go in and you straighten your shoulders and you go in with that intent and you can say, no, you're not allowed to scare me in here anymore. Yeah. This is my land. We have the same blood running through us, me and you. I'm your equal. You can't scare me. And 9 times out of 10, it'll work. It's the intent that you're giving.
That's it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, there's an interesting one here.
Sorry, Chris. As it was when it was constructed as the Singleton Hall, it was constructed in the shape of a cross, also.
Right.
Well, that tells me the fact that it's called the Singleton Hall. That's serendipity beyond anything. We should all meet there and have a brew and see what the energy's like. But if it's been built on a crucifix or a cruciform, as it would have been called then that's very important. The energy there is important. It's almost like Stonehenge, really. Yeah. Because before the Romans nicked the cruciform, it didn't mean what it means now. It was there's only so many patterns you can make with sticks, isn't there? Yeah. But it meant an important place. But it would be either in a cruciform or in an X like that. Yeah. We find both of those in the woods.
Yeah. Well, our history
probably be a Norman name.
Yeah. Yeah. But our history was written by ancient history, was mainly written by the Romans, who thought we were a load of savages when we wasn't. It was a highly advanced nation. And
what did Caesar say? He said it was an abominable place where he didn't understand how we lived here. It was that wet and damp. And he said it was a forest from tip to toe, and men could vanish and appear at will.
Yeah.
Because we were so used to that was our natural environment. I mean, can't get it wrong. The first time we come, we got rid of him. We only learned about the times where they actually invaded. And they only invaded because by that time the tribes were inner fighting within themselves. So early politics. You get the tribes fighting, then the Romans can sneak in, can't they? I'll get the date wrong, but probably 80, 90 years before they tried, and we repelled them.
Yeah.
Because we were together as one, as this English nation. It was only when they started splitting us up, you know, they took over and ruined everything.
Yeah, exactly.
In Ancient Ruby says, I do healing and it works 100%. All should try it. Yes. And I've found that, you know, that call outs that I do at the beginning of the show, it works because several people have come back and said they felt a lot better, even though they didn't know that I was calling them out.
Yeah.
There's a person overseas who said they were feeling rather down with what was going on over the last 2 years, which we can't speak about. And they said that they was feeling really down because I was very much alone, John, and they felt a lot better. And but as the show's going out, it's I think I don't know how many hours forward or back they are there. I think they're forward by hours. So you felt a lot better when we were doing this call out. And a lot of people, somebody else that felt ill. I mean, how do you feel this week, Deb? Because you was quite bad last week, didn't you? You didn't feel very well.
I've had a bit of hay fever. I've not been too cracking, but I'm all right.
Well, I'm actually going to see Miles tomorrow, and if there's anything you want me to ask him on your behalf, I'll be happy to, because we're going to.
Nettle seed, Deborah. I will send you some in the post. You need female nettle seed. Bung it up, like push it up. Put a teaspoon in your whatever, in your soup, in your you know, anything, whatever you have, breakfast cereal. There's more nutrients and vitamins and everything else in that nettle seed at this time of year. If you could do it, you just go out and you don't got to shake it like that, and the bowl will fill.
Right.
It is massively good for your immune system.
Any nettles around here?
Oh, there's nettles everywhere. Now you're looking for them, you'll see them. But
Probably,
honestly, you get nettles off the female plant. And if you're not sure which one's a female, email me and I'll send you a picture of it. But yeah, this is the time of year we should be foraging.
Right.
Yeah.
No, there was male and female nettles.
Yeah,
So
there's male and female and everything. Nature is that clever that she doesn't grow the food at the time you need it. She grows it at the time for you to prepare. So everything that's at harvest at the moment will see you through the winter months. You know? So freeze it, dry it, pickle it, jam it, whatever it is you do. If you walk past an elder bush and there's berries on it, take them home and eat them. If you see blackberries, take them home and eat them. That's what you're supposed to be doing. You need them in you know.
Blackberry season soon, isn't it? It's August.
Yeah. But yeah, that's it. You get your crop in now, and that sees you through the winter months. And that's why we have solstice, because we say, oh, thank goodness, we've made it through the harshest weeks of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, Deb, before Samhain and Beltane.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Food and the tides.
We need to do a show about this because it's something I'm particularly fascinated with. But we've got here, Lewis T says, Nooner person who deserts and betrays an organisation, country or set of principles, an agent who later turns out to be a renegade. And Robbie Green says, being here is a giant FU to the elite, brothers and sisters in arms.
True.
Thanks, Robbie. It's very true. And I do like your question. I like you're not criticising, but you're pushing the barriers, and that's what I like in a polite way. So thanks, mate. Thanks, Robbie. Right, and then we got here renegades. We got Hatchie. Hello, Hatchie. Renegades, beautiful. Nothing like looking outside the box. Love to all. That's
right back at you.
Spot on. Nail on said. Yeah. Nail on said. There's not wrong with being a renegade or a rebel or a pioneer. There's nothing wrong with that. If that's your path and that's like the way that your path's going, run with it.
Yeah.
Run with it. Do everything you can with it, you know. I once had this guy on the phone I'm not going to name names, but he said that he was psychically connected to a number of aliens and that they'd given him all of these secret powers and that he could heal people and that he could see into them and change them. And I asked him what he did with it. And he said that it improved his golf game incredibly.
Right.
I said, so you're telling me that an ancient civilizations of aliens have gone out of their way to communicate with you so that you're better on the 9th hole? Because if I had those powers that you were claiming you had, I'd been in hospital curing the sick.
Yeah.
And he didn't understand what I meant. And he actually laughed at me, Chris. And he said, oh, you're so far down the ladder, I pity you. And I thought, well, don't pity me because I wouldn't want your karma.
No.
Well, I do believe, I'm a great believer in karma. You put out good vibes and come back, put that vibe back. But let's face it, if you're going to go out in the day and you say, I'm going to have a crap day, you'll have a crap day.
Yeah, of course you will.
You'll have a good day. And
I've
learned with maturity, I think. Now we got here V. McCrinnan, going back to what Colin and Deb Hatswell was talking about. We've had a string of drownings in Bath and Bristol recently. And Agent Ruby says, too many dying on that canal.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting. Now we got Hatchie says, I'm as bald as a coat. Well, as I said, I'm not. I've just got a very wide central parting. Apparently, we have to get a cow to give it a lick. Old wives' tale. Yeah, I've heard that one.
I've heard that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, could get one of my neighbours to get a lick, which is right, old cow. You know.
I've got one.
Well, not on my chin.
You mentioned upside down, Colin.
Well, I'll tell you something, Colin. We're apparently bald because we've got extra male testosterone. So
is that right?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, you don't find many old men that bit like that.
You can't say that. That's really bad. That's his opinion, not mine. That's nothing. Wow. You can't do that. It's like somebody says tickety winky woo or something. Oh, Chris. Oh, no.
Oh, Chris.
It's true, isn't it? You know, I mean.
Oh, not at all.
We're real men.
Oh, dear.
Oh, that told me that. Oh,
It always goes downhill at this time of night.
Oh, I'm just imagining everyone on Canal Street coming and knocking on my door now. Whatever you like.
Is it right at Canal Street somebody's actually got some snow paint or white paint and taken out the sea?
Yeah. Yeah, they did. Someone did it years ago. Yeah.
They're all laughing there in the chat. I'm sorry. Sometimes his face just gives me opinion away. I try really hard, but
I've got nothing against people that, you know, the other side of the fence, shall we say?
That might be.
Yeah. Now, let's have a look here. We got here. Robert Moore. Hello. All thumbs up, everyone. Remember to share and comment. Yep, we do that.
Yeah, all one do that. Let me
I can't remember. Did I announce the new Prime Minister of Fuckham Hall at the beginning of the show?
No, you didn't. We need to see the new Prime Minister.
Oh, you need to see the new Prime Minister of Fuckham Hall. Are we ready to? Hang on, where I've lost myself here.
He's a dream.
Yes. What am I doing? I get myself all discombobulated here. Where are we? Oh, here it is. And here is, waiting for it. Here he is. In his name, that is
Roger.
It's Roger.
And,
his actual real name is Rogering, and he likes to be known as Rogering the cat. Why he's called Rogering the cat is because lots of high-ranking people around the world like Rogering the cat, so I've been told. I'm very innocent. I don't know why people laugh at that. I mean, What's wrong with the name Rogering? So let's say here he is. He's passed all motions already as Prime Minister. So there he is. Rogering.
Bob will be out in a sec. If you're getting cats out, Bob will be out, won't he, Deb? He'll want everything to be right, and it'll all go to pot then.
It will, yeah.
Fine.
It'll just be cats everywhere.
The poor giant dog. It's a shame.
Yeah, donkey.
I haven't even got halfway through the comments. I do feel very, very rude.
They're just happily chatting to each other, Chris. I mean,
Yeah.
monitoring, and they're having a good time in the chat.
Ancient Ruby says, I give up reporting to police sightings of UFOs back in the 90s.
Pointless, isn't it?
They would not investigate and laugh. Ah.
We've got a few witnesses now, Ruben. There's a few witnesses come forward that are in the police services now. I think it's changing a lot. Yeah. I mean, you remember back when it was Alan Godfrey in Todmorden? There were 4 of the police officers, serving police officers who saw that light. Yeah. That didn't come out. That's only recently come out. I mean, if you Google it, you can find it out yourself. Yeah. So there are police officers that it was just so hard for them because that's the job, isn't it? It's the livelihood.
Yeah.
What was that chap, Gary? Oh, bloody hell, what's his name now? He used to be on Rich Planet a lot. There's an ex-policeman that runs
a lot of people don't like him, Chris.
Sorry?
A lot of people do not like him.
No,
yeah, but we got here, what is it? I don't know much about him, actually. They use shoes in psyops on the news and pictures, etc. If there is a mass shooting, for example, yeah, I know what you mean. For example, there will always be a picture of an empty shoes, starting with pictures. Emotional trigger equals, you're quite right. Yes. Yeah. And there was a comedy show once where they said, is it strange that wherever you see a disaster, there's always a child's shoes strategically placed?
Yeah.
It's something about shoes, isn't it? Because I think in the Middle East, if you chuck a shoe at somebody, it's
an insult. Yeah, it is, yeah.
Yes.
Isn't it?
That's interesting. This is Robbie Green. Says the cryptids absorb the energy from the ley lines.
Lots of people believe that they use them to move around. Yeah. There's even belief that they use quartz crystal as well to kind of strengthen that energy. Yeah. A lot of people will call them EMEs because it's basically the Earth's energy itself, electromagnetic energy. So it's forming this being. Depending on what it wants from you, it can form in any way it wants. So if it wants negative things for you, it'll terrify the crap out of you. But if it wants positive things from you, it'll be in a way that you will accept it, kind of thing. I mean, I've never done a scientific paper or anything like that. So I'm just my opinion.
Well, I'll show you some of the crystals because there's a group of us sitting in a cafe, and I was filming this. I filmed it. I'm not sure. Sorry, did I film it? I can't remember.
I remember seeing a video, I think.
Yes, and Hayley, the crystal lady, supplied the crystal. So, and here is the video.
Take the sunlight away. It goes up and down, doesn't it? It's variable, but it's pretty high. And I think you're pretty close to the sunlight. Well, that's way over 1,000. Put it back.
Right, watch this. Chongo in front. 86. 04. 45. It went down to.
Yeah.
70.
Even like coming near to it.
Yeah.
What can't speak can't lie.
Exactly.
That's quite incredible. It was just literally, we were sitting in a cafe and said, "Oh, let's give it a try, shall we?" Yeah. And I brought this electric meter in that registers
EMF meter.
EMF meter, yeah. Yes, that's quite something. That is, and we've got here. We've got something very nice that someone said about Colin. Where is it? Yeah, I've
Chris, just before you move out, like what Deb was saying there, the lays go well beyond. Was it Alfred Watkins and Gary Underwood? Because Alfred Watkins claimed that he saw them, didn't he, in a vision?
Yeah, he could see them. Yeah, I don't know too much about it, Colin. Yeah.
He claimed that he had a vision and they were going through ancient monuments.
It doesn't surprise me.
wherever they built churches and places like that, and obviously before they built the churches, there would have been another monument there.
Yeah, it'd have been an area of high energy of some kind that we would have felt.
And Gary Underwood carried on the his research after that. But as you were saying, it goes well before him. It's what they tap into.
I just think it is. I think we used to tap into it as well.
Yeah.
I think we understood it. If anybody's interested, there's a lady called Dr. Anna, and she worked with an animal called Spirit. She's very good at connecting spiritual energy with animals and things like that. And she walked into a baboon colony, the worst baboon colony on the planet in South Africa. And she was accepted because she changed her energy. She did it that way. But she works with other people. And there's one chap who sees the lines. He can actually see the line of the energy. I kind of feel it, and feel's the wrong word. It makes me feel off kilter. And depending on the area that I'm in and what other energies around, it can make you feel sick. You can always drop to your knees. Yep. And yet in other areas, it can make you feel euphoric. Yeah. And I think people think it's one continual line of energy. It's like this. You get nodes where it's less, and because we've built buildings on it, or we've tarmacked it or whatever. But you find in the places where we still worship's the wrong word, but where we still go and we still enjoy things, the lay will be stronger because all our energy is involved within that. Yeah. Weirdly, you tend to find that the TP structures that people talk about, where they say, oh, it's the Bigfoot den or whatever. I don't think it is. I think it's working like a pyramid. I think it's intensifying the energy. Yeah. And they're using that to move around.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
But we've got a nice comment here. David Warrenuik. Please excuse me if I've pronounced your surname incorrectly. What's happening, peeps? Great to see Colin. That guy is amazing. So nice. That's great. And now it says here, Robbie Green says, I believe that the ley lines are like webs that the cryptoids can detect when people are on them. What do you think, Deb?
I agree. I think it's like you see a spider's web, and if you ping it, the spider will come out. And I think it's something like that. You tread on a certain area, and it sends out your vibrations,
activates it. It's like the human being's a catalyst, isn't it? Yeah. Like 10 people could probably go in there and nothing. Yeah. And a certain person will go in and they'll pick up on everything.
I think that's to do with what your energy's like. I mean, most people blunder about, don't they? Not even thinking about what energy they're putting out, or
head down, AirPods in, head down. Even when you walk in dark, head down, and you just walk in looking where you think. We never look up. We never ever look. No. Ever. Human beings are not trained to look up,
Whereas I'm quite aware of my surroundings when I'm out and about.
I'm more the case that you're looking at, where she went. She got out of the car and was found eaten by badgers. Everything she did is a complete opposite of what a single female do.
Exactly.
We are taught it from birth. If you break down on a lonely road in your car, stay with. Do not get out. Do not walk. And if you're daft enough to do that, then you head for lights.
You follow the road. You don't go into a field and walk.
That's what I say. You stay on that road and you follow that road in the hopes that another vehicle is going to come by at some point. You don't walk off into the fields on your own willy-nilly so that they find you ate by foxes days later. Complete opposite. And Chris, we started tonight with cases on the increase. And one certain kind of case that's on the increase, and Deb will attest to this, is people who are being found dead. Yeah. And they are saying that it is an animal attack of some kind.
Yeah.
And they're not being investigated.
Yeah. It's kept
so all across the America, you hear about a school teacher taken down by a pack of animals. Yeah. Why did she get out of the car? If you were confronted with a pack of wild dogs, which is what they're trying to blame her, you wouldn't get out of the car.
No, you wouldn't. Even if you needed to go for a pee, you'd have a quick pee and you'd get back in the car.
If there was 12 rabid dogs around the car and I needed a pee, I'd pee in my car.
I would, rather than get out.
Yes. And why is it in these films, they always investigate? If there's something creepy, they'll go and investigate. Where with me, there'd be a sort of trail of diarrhea running off into the hills. You know, but Deb, thanks for shoving this on, and also for Robbie. Please remember, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you already haven't. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's free to subscribe. And
Course
Robert Moore has done the same. Isn't that kind? Thank you very much. I think a lot of that's very kind of you. Thank you. Thanks, Robert, and thanks, Deb. Because, you know, click the old thumbs up, ding, ding. And if you've seen this on BitChute, it was recorded, it was done live yesterday, you see.
Yeah.
Depending on when you see it on BitChute, of course. That's, of course, if YouTube don't ban me beforehand. But optimistically, hopefully you see me on YouTube and on Drew. So it's not YouTube, BitChute. We're not talking about. A bit tired, but now it says here. This is quite interesting. Again, I'm sorry I'm missing a lot here. Dragons are often found in the myths of ancient cultures. Yes, and why dragons in the myths of Chinese culture as well as Welsh culture, and they're about as far apart in the world as you could ever wish to think of.
Yeah.
Isn't that strange? And also the little people. Little people are in Ireland and also Iceland, which is a long way. And did you know that until recently, and I think they might still do it, local councils, if they're going to build a road and it goes and upsets the little people, they'll do a big sort of curve and divert the road because they don't want to upset the little people. And
just build through anything.
I take reports of people all the time that see little people. I took one this weekend.
Yeah.
From a guy who saw just a little man. He described him as a little man dressed in green and brown. You'd be amazed how many people see them and make reports of them.
Well, you heard about my fairy music. I've said this on several shows. So I don't want to bore everybody. When I actually heard fairy music, and I'm positive it was, I was driving along in my car, and it's the most beautiful music I've ever heard.
I've had that in bed, but I put that down to it was more angelic for me. But it was just harps and tinkling bells. The sweetest music I've ever heard. I've never heard anything remotely like it.
Now, this was like a party. It was also a woodwind. The only way I could describe it, I don't like Elizabethan type music, but it's a bit like that, but folksy. It was, and I actually stopped my car, got out. I could still hear it. I thought, it can't be my car, you know. Got back in the car. Beautiful moonlit night, clear it was. Summertime between Christmas and New Year, but it was not that cold, you know. But it's crisp. Anyway, Robert Moore says it's rumoured that skinwalker magic off the res in the 1920s mixed with European magic has spread across the United States.
Oh, right.
Yeah. I've heard that.
Yes, that is interesting. That's very interesting. Now, it says here, Richard on Solent, I'm interested in Lee Woods since you told me about them. Not big, but I might if I'm ever in the area.
I think that's V mentioned that earlier, Lee Woods.
I've got cases there.
You have?
Yeah, I've got cases in Lee Woods. I've got a case where 2 girls went to the newspapers. They were frightened out of their camp during the night. Howells, I think. Another case, Lee Woods, was a lady who knew it by the back of her hand, and she said, I just suddenly did not know where I was. I didn't recognise where I was. I didn't know anything. And there's another case, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. It's on the estuary, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Is it Medway or somewhere near there?
No, it's Bristol. Way.
Oh, Bristol. I'm terribly sorry.
Yeah,
that would be the Severn Estuary or something like that.
Yes.
But, on both sets of woods, because there's woods on both sides of the bridge, you see. So one's Lee Woods and one's something else. But yeah, there are definitely the cases in those 2 areas. There's a bit spooky, Lee Woods is the way I put it. There's a bit of darkness to it, and I don't really know how to put it into words.
Right.
I've been there, but when I'm working on it, I get a funny feeling of it. It was really strange because every case that you've mentioned tonight, I've been working on in the past week.
Well, there's another one here. Robert Moore says, what about your big black cats, black leopards?
Yeah, they just come in every week. They come in all the time, week in, week out. Just on the increase existentially now, but dog walkers. I'm sorry, I'm stuttering. It's me pain. I'm really hanging on here with everything I've got.
Oh, I'm ever so sorry. We should have a call out for you.
Yes. Lots of dog walkers are now reporting cats that are kind of bracing, not running off like a cat would normally do.
Fronting up.
Yeah, fronting up or kind of shadowing them back to the car almost. So it's like they're losing the fear of humans.
What about the increase in people that are living in what is called stealth camper vans? And there's lots of you see them on YouTube that obviously are in remote areas sometimes. This is where they get a van and they convert it into like a living accommodation, but outside it looks like an ordinary van. And look, quite a few people have actually experienced some spooky situations when sleeping in the van.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a couple, believe it or not, they said best places to park up is in a cemetery. I wouldn't want to sleep the night in a cemetery. Ugh, you know.
Really not.
Well, where my dad is, it's lovely. It's lovely where my dad is. It's like a woodland nature reserve, so everything's got bird feeders. It's to attract the. It's a beautiful place to sit down, and I think cemeteries can have a nice feel for some people, can't they? They just have that kind of I think they can. But I know what you mean. At night, they're different places, aren't they?
Creepy, isn't it? You know, it's a bit at night. But now we've got here nickname says domestic cats do not connect with me. Love a hamster. What with sort of peas and carrots and. As they're doing South American dishes, it. So I'm only joking. It's all
right with you, Chris. I'm gonna jump out. I need to go and take my pain meds. I can really.
Oh, Deb, I wish you better. So, please.
That'll never happen. I'll take my meds. I'll be fine in half an hour when I've had something to eat.
Well, we've got over our time anyway, so we should wind up now.
Yes.
Thanks everybody for coming on tonight.
Yes, thank you.
Everybody in chat.
Enjoyed myself. It was lovely. Yeah.
And I'm sorry I can't read all your messages out, but stay tuned because if I'm not taken off next week, I will hopefully be doing a radio show soon. And this is why I'm going to see Miles tomorrow because we're talking about it. We're going to be discussing it tomorrow. So that's going to be interesting. Thank you everybody for coming on, and thank you everybody in chat. And remember, the old thumbs up and ding that little bell and subscribe, which is free of charge. And whatever happens, have a laugh. And we'll see you the same time, same place next week.
Bye.
YouTube permitting. And good night. Thank you very much.